afternoon, Brad and Gwen. How are you both doing today?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Today we're going to be talking about the documentary Her Fight, His Name, the story of Gwen Carr and Eric Gardner.
Mhm.
And when I usually get these press days, I don't read the synopsis. I watch the film like that. I can have it as a surprise. When those crucial 5 minutes of what this story is about, um, it reminded me of that time when I was watching this news uh, on my television,
Mhm.
and I've been somebody from small that I've always been interested in the African American culture, their history behind it, and it's you have amazing stories, but these stories that keep happening over and over again, there's still a lot of work to do. Me and myself being Puerto Rican, still going to the States sometimes because I speak Spanish or I look different, people see me different. But now I wanted to ask Brad, to start with this question, what inspired you to bring up this story once again, but it focuses fully on Gwen and
Mm,
her words of what this story was all about.
sure. Thank you, and thank you for your testimonial before that. That really touched me, and I appreciate that. I wanted to do a story. I was at Columbia at the time, and I was in a oral history program. So I wanted to do an oral history project, so to speak. But I wanted to do it where I could interview someone and I could get it from their perspective. A lot of people do stories with experts and other people weighing in on their particular experiences, but I wanted to get it from Miss Carr's perspective. So nothing happened in this film that did not come from her perspective or she was not in the room for. That was critical for me. And so that was it. I wanted to understand what happens to people when the cameras go away, as Miss Carr knows, and what happens to real people behind some of the stories we see on the media and on TV. And so when I called Miss Carr, I called her out of the blue, but we have a common friend in common. And I hoped that at that point she was able to trust me with the story in a way and be able to do it justice and justice to her life. And I think that's what we wanted to do, to understand what happens when the cameras go away in public and private moments. And I hope we achieve that.
Amazing. And Gwen, how does it feel that it's been, I would say, 20, it's been around 10 years and you're still moving forward in making people understand what happened, showing them what can be fixed, like that. Not only yourself, because other families have been through this as well. How does it feel that your voice is still going out there, and especially with this amazing phenomenal documentary, that it's you're the voice of this.
Well, this is a part of my therapy, a part of my healing, and this is what I wanted it to do. I want my story to help other people. I want it to be a call to action. And if I could share my platform with other mothers whom a lot of people never heard of before, because there's thousands of mothers out there that is hurting and has the same pain that I have, but they got no press, they got no news coverage. And I thought that I might could bring something to the table for them. And I was glad when Brad asked me to tell my story in the way from my perspective, not from the news, where they put a spin on things a lot of times. So we were together for 6 years. He was filming me in different aspects, different states, and it tells the real story.
Okay, and now going off of what Gwen said, Brad, how long did it take to create this documentary? I know that other documentaries, when they're in a longer format, an hour, 20 or 2 hours, rare occasions. But this is a 30-minute documentary. But how long did it take you to get all of this footage, get everything sorted out?
Well, as Miss Carr knows, we shot quite a lot. We shot everywhere, didn't we, Miss Carr? I think.
Yes, we
Uh,
did.
we shot all over the country: New Orleans, California, New Jersey, New York, Cleveland. I think that when I wanted to do something, I could have done a longer form film, but I want to do something short because, or at least I wanted it because I'm an educator and I wanted something where this film is about teaching people. Uh, it's first and foremost a learning tool. And so I wanted something where I could take it into a classroom or other people could take it to a classroom and be able to, in an hour, watch the film and then that next 20 minutes digest to the students or to the group that they're talking to what happened and how they can make impact in their own lives. We live in an attention deficit world. People have very short attention spans. And so I wanted it to be able to, I wanted something succinct, but I wanted it packed. And I wanted it to be able to be so dense enough where somebody could try to digest or what happened to it for a long period of time. And I think that's why it took us so long. Because as Miss Carr knows, I tend to be too much of a perfectionist sometimes, and so I was like, no, 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 it's not done. We're just gonna have to sit on it, and that's what happened. That's what happened because I knew that the story was not done in the way I felt it needed to be told, and but the final product, this final product, I'm happy with.
And Gwen, I wanted to ask because I do remember that day. I remember it like if it was yesterday because my aunt that she now resides in Chicago. She was the one that sent me the good news because I was working. But how did you feel when they gave their final verdict in the case to the officer?
Um, well, you mean when they fired him or when the DOJ didn't want to go forward?
When they fired him?
Um, it was bittersweet because I was overjoyed that he was fired, but then in reality, I still didn't have my son, you know. So it wasn't the victory that I thought that I would get or I would feel. There it was still a void there. And he was the only officer that was fired, and there were others involved. So I still wanted to go after the other officers who were involved. So I was glad that we got that little bit of justice, but I think it should have been more because he never was charged with any crime.
Yeah, it when I saw that he was not charged for anything, I felt devastated because it's not the
Hmm.
first time that happens.
Right. No.
And um, Brad, is is this type of documentary or film that you want to pursue moving forward in your career, or do you want to lean in something else?
Oh, great question. Like as I told someone, I think privately before, or publicly before, I'm an oral historian. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a journalist, I'm a policy person, a researcher, but I'm also an oral historian. I think almost first. So I love the idea of storytelling. And there's so many different types of stories to be told. I think I spent as long on this one because I have an amazing person who I followed. I'm sure I may have met someone. Other projects may not take that long. Other projects I may not want to follow it for that long, but for this one I did. But I think that, my last project that I won the student Oscar for was about Hale Zukas, who was a 73-year-old at the time, disabled rights activist who had cerebral palsy his whole life, but he changed the world. I'm working on another film now about a filmmaker out in California. And so for me, I think that it's organic. It's about what's in my heart. I work with my mind, but I will also work with my heart. And so, that's how I was raised. I was raised a farm on a farm, and so in many different ways. And so for me, um, I like to be able to get to the heart and the raw organic matter of how people operate through the world, what makes people tick, and and how the people we see in plain sight in everyday lives can be extraordinary in different ways. And so that's something I hope to do, God willing, for years to come, if I'm blessed enough. And so and to be able to get out there and to help people tell their own stories, but also not to be. I always hate when people say you have to be a voice for the voiceless. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has a voice. And so you want to help them shape or tell their own voice in a way where they take the lead. We took the lead from Miss Carr. Miss Carr was the really director of this film because we took our cues from her. And I think yeah, that's where I want to be.
Amazing. And I before I entered the this interview, I wanted to find a film that I still haven't seen it, but for me, and I don't remember it, what was it called? But at least if I do remember it, I'll put it on the description of the video. But for me, Gwen is a modern day. There's this film that talks about it follows this young kid that he only just like winked at or said hello to a
Emmett Till.
female.
Oh, Emmett Till.
Yes. So for me, Gwen, you are like the modern day Emma Till
Well, Mrs.
because
Mobley. Miss
Miss
Mobley,
Mobley,
yes.
my bad. Yeah. So Miss
Hmm.
Mobley, um, is in this film you see how much passion you bring to bring justice to not only your son but to everybody that has been in this situation. And
Right.
what will be next for you, Gwen? I know that in the documentary you do like an annual event to like commemorate your son and other victims, but what is going to happen next, Gwen? Is there a next step that you want to take these following years to keep this movement moving forward?
Yes. There, in fact, there were several, being that I was out there in the public, there were several, other people who attempted to do documentaries on me also. And then as you speak about my yearly gala, yeah, that's my fundraising piece so I can keep on doing the work. And it's called the ERIC Initiative. And what I made a acronym out of my son's name is because and it stands for Eliminating Racism and Inequality Collectively. And I want people to, like to really dwell on that acronym because it's not only the Black race, it's not only the Puerto Ricans. I mean, there is tragedy in every race, and I wanted to focus on them. When I have my galas, I have everybody there. It's not a Black thing, you know. It's well, we know that Blacks are impacted the most by these tragedies, but I don't just confine it to Blacks. And so I invite everyone, I encourage everyone to come out to it so they can see how we do. And we just try to make everyone comfortable at the gala. So that's why we try to get the word out there early so we can sell tables, so we can sell tickets. And in the past, it's been a success, but we don't have any permanent. We're looking for donors that will help us each year. But we do have donors that help us from year to year, but we're looking for other donors that will say, well, we'll help you for 5 years, we'll help you for 10 years, we'll help you for a couple of years, whatever. We are appreciative of whatever we can get. Mhm.
That's amazing. And this question is for both of you. Um, I know that this story it brings up very difficult memories,
Mm-hmm.
and it brings up a very thin line subject as well, because not everybody wants to talk about this, but still, do you both have a fond memory while then in this case, Brad, while you were with your camera following Gwen, and as well, Gwen, do you have any fond memory of all this experience?
Oh
Sure.
goodness.
Oh, go ahead, Grant. You can
No,
tell
go.
me.
You go, Miss Carr. Go,
No.
Miss Carr.
No, I mean, yeah, there were plenty fond memories because when Brad was filming, we were at other mothers' commemorations where we were loving on each other, where we were encouraging each other. Um, Brad was even at my grandson's graduation where, he was filming myself and my grandson graduating from high school. And, those were great moments. And my grandson even said, "Wow, Grandma," she said, "the people at who was at the graduation, his friends and whatnot, thought he had his own photographer come out and film him." You know. So, yeah, there was a lot
He
of great
did.
moments. Hmm.
He did. He did have his own. No, it's been an absolute honor. It's been one of the honors of my life. Absolutely, and there's so many moments, but also me and Miss Carr speaking in New Orleans. That was a wonderful
Yeah.
weekend. We went down to New Orleans for the Essence Film Festival and spoke in front of 40,000 people, up on
Hmm.
stage. And I think they had called me right before to do it, so I didn't even know I was going to do it. And then Nadia calls me, I think the day before. She's like, "You want to speak in front of 40,000 people tomorrow?" I'm like, okay, I'll do that. and then and that's one of the scenes in the film. That's one of the scenes in the film. So that was a great moment as well. But yeah, no, it's been one of the honors of my life. It really has.
Yeah, one of the scene that Gwen mentions when you see all the mothers together and the pictures of each of their family members. Um, my wife was actually waking up while I was watching the film, and she was like seeing me. I was teared up, and she's like, "Are you okay? Did something happen?" And I explained it to her like, "No, this is I'm just watching a documentary that getting ready for the interview." And I explained it everything to her, and I told her like, "Hey, I remember this case. I remember watching it in the news, and it's not the first time that this happened." And
No.
just seeing that there were more, it got me much more here in the heart, because I have a 2-year-old, and I don't know if he's going to be safe, especially here in my island, Puerto Rico. That these past 3 months, there's been more than 75 murders in
Wow.
different styles or ways. So
Mhm.
the fact that this documentary is out there is amazing, like that people can learn, like that people can know that this is happening. And
Mhm.
Brad, upcoming, you mentioned that you are working on something else, but is there any other story that you would like to be like behind of, or that you would like to produce in the future?
Well, there's a lot of different stories that I like. And I'm actually debating moving into, well, documentaries still are my core, but I would love to move into sort of almost docu-dramas in a way, sort of fictional representations of still real stories that happen in different lives. But I'm thinking about ways to move into that genre as well, while also keeping form and true to the documentary form. I think the next project I do will be a documentary feature. Actually, that is what I'm working on now, and I've been working on it for years. Ms. Carr knows that story, the story I was shooting out in Oakland. But I was doing that short, but I realized I need to turn that to a feature because I've been shooting that one all over the world. But that story is another story I've been working on for 4 years, and that's come to its completion as well. So that story will be done in January.
That
So
that's amazing. And this would be I'm not gonna make it as a final question, but I would just like to know, Gwen, if you could provide like a message for everybody that's out there that has been through this or that are fighting this right now, probably in court, what words will you give to them for encouragement?
Well, I would tell them to please don't give up. You might get knocked down, but get back up again. A lot of times you don't feel like going on, but give yourself a couple of days rest and get up and keep on fighting because they're going to fight us. So we have to fight back.
Amazing, amazing words. Brad, Gwen, thank you very much for giving me the time to talk about her fight his name. And I hope that the same way that it has impacted in my life, it can impact others. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
very much for your time.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Bye
Mhm.
bye.